In this video, I'm going to be comparing two cars. I'm going to be comparing my 2019 S-Class or S450 to my brand new 2022 GLS 450. Now, Mercedes claims that the GLS is the S-Class of SUVs, but is it really the S-Class of SUVs? Is it as comfortable as this? Does it drive the same as this one? Does it make you feel the same way? Well, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at all of those things, including what they cost, and is this really worth it over this? So let's go ahead and get started in this video. Okay, so to compare these two vehicles, I am going to be looking at basically a couple of things. We're going to look at cost, we're going to look at styling, we're going to look at comfort, and we're going to look at drivability in it. Now, it is the afternoon sun, so bear with me here. So right now I'm sitting in the 2022 GLS 450. I do not, then we're going to take a look at the S450. I don't feel it's a fair comparison to compare this to the new S-Class, because the new S-Class just has a lot more tech and it looks completely, the whole layout is different than what you find in this GLS. This GLS is more comparable to my 2019 S-Class. That's why I didn't compare it to that. I do have a friend that has the new one. I'm not a fan of it. I will not be getting the new S-Class. In fact, I'm returning this S-Class. I'll tell you about that in another video. Okay, so let's get started. So let's talk price. As equipped, this vehicle is $90,000. Unfortunately, because of the crazy economy, I ended up spending $95,000. I had paid $5,000 over sticker. The S-Class, as equipped, that was $107,000, and that one really doesn't have much options. So when it comes to options, I am not going to go into features. There's a ton of videos on YouTube on features of these two cars. Almost every single feature that you can get in a S-Class, you can get in a GLS. I don't think there's any option there that you can. So, but the S-Class will always cost more, always. You know, if you're going to spend $110,000 on this, you're probably going to spend $130,000 to get the same set of features. So the S-Class wins, the GLS wins because you can get the same features at a cheaper price. So one for the GLS. Now, when it comes to styling, well, styling is really something that's very, very subjective. Pricing isn't, for features and what you can get. When it comes to styling, you know, the GLS looks like a normal box on the road, as most SUVs are. It doesn't have a massive road presence as the S-Class would have. An S-Class is an executive looking sedan. They use them to chauffeur executives around. This just looks like any family SUV, nothing special, I guess, except the big Mercedes sign in the front. In fact, well, I shouldn't call it old, but my Escalade that you guys, if you saw the previous video, you know, that one had a better road presence than this. This one is very plain. It doesn't have any curves. The front, to me, is not the prettiest looking one at all. In fact, I think it's one of the uglier of the large SUVs, and I think the BMW X7 looks a lot better than this one. So definitely the S-Class has a more executive look. I love the way the three side lights comes out of an S-Class. I love the way that the S-Class looks in terms of once you're going down the road. If you ever see one going down the road, just the length of it from the side view just looks amazing. The back of the S-Class, that's very subjective. I'm not a fan of the back of the S-Class. Neither am I a fan of this one. So not one for the S-Class. Now let's talk of comfort. Well, comfort is something I'm going to figure in that most people are going to call this thing subjective. When it comes to comfort, I believe that the GLS is more comfortable, in my opinion. Now, I have friends that told me the S-Class is more comfortable. I feel, now here's why. So the first thing up is the seat. This seat is much more cushiony. This seat has a ton of cushion on it. When you sit inside of it, you kind of go down a little bit. To me, on a longer drive, I could sit here longer. My butt likes this one longer than that one in a longer drive. This one here, the seating position, the way the pedals are, you sit a little bit high up, you can see more things, makes this one to me a more comfortable on a longer distance. In fact, this morning, I had to drive 160 miles. It was like 80 mile go, 80 mile come back to take my wife somewhere. And the S-Class is parked next to the GLS. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be in this car for about 2.5 hours just in the drive. What am I taking? I ended up taking the GLS, even though the S-Class is parked right next to it. And this one didn't even have gas. I had to put gas in this one to drive, while the S-Class is a full tank. So this one, because of its comfort, now also, let's talk second row. The S-Class here would win in that second row comfort because it's much bigger, it's much longer, the seats are more comfortable in the second row. For some reason, the second row in this car really freaking sucks. It's pretty hard in this second row of this GLS, but you have decent leg room. The S-Class has a ton of leg room. You can dance in the back there on that second row of the S-Class. Why? Because it doesn't have a third row. This one, obviously, it's a big SUV. It has a third row. It's an okay third row. I can fit in it. I could be in there for, you know, a long drive. I'll be fine. You know, just don't put a tall person in front of me to push it all the way back. So in that situation, this one here has decent second row, okay third row. Front row is amazing to me. I'm giving this one here a point here. So 2 to the GLS, 1 to the S-Class. Now, let's talk drivability. There's an old saying in cars, man. Maybe you heard this before. Nothing drives like an S-Class. Does this drive like an S-Class? And the verdict says close, but no. So, to really make you understand what I'm going to be talking about, you got to talk about how it handles. You got to talk how it corners. You got to talk about which one, you know, if you're going to be driving for a long period of time, you don't mind seating comfort, which one do you want to take on this longer drive? So the S-Class here is going to win. I've driven an S-Class for 6 years. I have never found a car, an SUV, that drives like it. Now, keep in mind, I do own a Lamborghini Urus. In my mind, the S-Class does drive better than a Urus. I'll talk about that in another video. So, you know, what makes it better? What makes it so much more better? Well, to talk about that, let's get into the S-Class and see why that one does drive a whole lot better. Okay, so here I am in the 2019 S450. Nothing drives like an S-Class is an old saying I've heard quite often. And the answer is correct. Nothing really drives like this. I've owned this for 3 years. I've owned the 2016 S550 for 3 years. I have never really driven a car that drives as good as this, as these S-Classes have. I do have a Urus. It doesn't drive better. It drives different. So I'm not going to compare this to a sports car, but when it comes to everyday usability car, I've never driven anything like it. Traditionally, sedans do drive better than SUVs. That's a known fact. This car doesn't have any body roll. The GLS has a ton of body roll, especially when going around tight corners. The GLS really feels like it's going to maybe flip over if you're going at high speeds. This car will not do that. The other thing is that when it comes to steering and precision, this car has a much more better in terms of precision steering. The GLS does have a lot more play in the wheel than this car does. You know, you drive something like an S63, it's really like, it's like supercar handling in a really fast sedan. So S-Classes, of course, are going to win in this category. I don't think that should surprise anyone because, well, they said nothing drives like an S-Class, and that is true. Maybe a Rolls-Royce does, but I've never driven a Rolls-Royce. So let's give the S-Class a win in this category. Verdict: is this the S-Class of the SUVs? Answer is yes. It really is basically an S-Class that is basically on an SUV platform. I think Mercedes did a great job translating what makes the S-Class special into an SUV form with a GLS. I have never driven other GLSs to really tell you what all the ones, but this one is. It's more comfortable. It's in my opinion, of course. Styling wise, well, you know, it's subjective, but the S-Class does win on that option. But it basically drives almost the same as an S-Class. It may not handle or be able to corner as good as an S-Class or give you that same level of confidence as an S-Class would give you. But it basically is very, very close to it. And when it comes to pricing, you know, this here will save you $20,000, $30,000 with the same set of features and comfort as an S-Class would. So based on those factors, this wins. This is the S-Class, and I think this is a better vehicle than an actual S-Class. In fact, it's so good that my S-Class lease is up, and I didn't renew it, and I'm going to be replacing the S-Class with another car because I don't need another S-Class because this one is just as good as that. So to conclude this video, this really is the S-Class of SUVs.